Code we know, but design? Alright, anything else? Any other questions? Sorry about my abysmal handwriting.
It's fine.
If someone wants to write, that would be cool. Maybe Helen can write. She's got write my hand. Oh, that's my wife, everybody. Hello. So have we started?
Yeah.
Right. Alright. So is that all the big questions people have?
I guess more will crop up once you probably start talking.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely encouraging to, if you've got those questions, that would be the worst thing for us to walk out and then happen. So,
And not answer those.
yeah, it's just hands up.
Alright, so yeah, let's start. My name is Benjamin Lupton. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and flying over here from Meta Refresh. And Rasagid, sweet. Rasagid had a question on Quora, which is, how does open source actually work in design? And I replied to that with like a pretty long answer, I would say, about, hey, there's evidence of open source in design everywhere. It's really quite there, but typically the way people think of open source is in code. Okay, here's my code, and then I can share that with you, and then we can copy and paste it. When design isn't as straightforward. Would everyone agree with me? So far? We've got nods, which is great. So, for myself, my company, we do pretty much entirely open source work. And it's like, how do you do a company to actually earn money through open source work? Right? Monetize section. So for us, it's been a long run. Initially, I'll tell my story now. Which is how I've come to get these lessons. Because originally I was like, this is my work, I'm going to hold on to it. People shouldn't take my stuff, that's bad. And I earn my money by selling my product. That was how I kind of started off my way of thinking. And as I got into things, I got into an open source community called Virtual Evolution, which is kind of like WordPress. And being inside that community was really great because we could work and we could collaborate on these things together. And that kind of led on to a whole bunch of other learnings. And I've got water. That's great. Has everyone fiddled with open source work before, like Drupal and WordPress?
We've not coded for it, but we have used it, I guess.
Yeah. I know that you design.
Have you fiddled with WordPress?
A little.
Yeah, so I got into doing all this open source stuff, and really, actually, the way I got into it, let's start off. I'll structure this a bit more. Helen, you can be my scribe. So we've got our fears here. So we can, that's like a section. And then we've got our pros. Yeah, and we can underscore them because they're the sections. Sweet. Now, so for this, I came from a point of thinking fears, which was people are going to steal my work, which is probably that one. Nah, fears. Yeah. And I'm not going to earn any money because I'm giving away my stuff for free. Does anyone have any other fears about open source? Or any
Somebody getting paid through my work.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Somebody getting paid through my work.
Okay, so someone's stealing it and then charging money for it.
That's my words. Right?
Yeah. 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 So stealing my work, then charging, that like rubs it in. And that's something I can relate to as well. So definitely these fears happen, so there is a reason why we have these fears. And anything else besides those two? So if I told you to do open source everything tomorrow, what excuses would you make?
I gotta sell my stuff.
Pardon?
I gotta sell my stuff. How am I gonna get, pay the rent?
Yeah.
How will the product develop itself given it has no income
Yeah.
and there's no support available then for it?
Yeah.
As well as given it's done for, let's say, general goodwill, so to speak, there is not enough trust in it when it comes to doing something which is critical.
Yeah. So there's a trust issue with open source work.
Yeah, personally.
Yeah. Because like, if it's just a guy in his basement, then you can't get good support.
Yeah.
What incentive do you have to sustain it over a long time?
That's a good one. I like that one.
What incentive?
Yeah. And does that about cover it? Cool. We'll probably have to move the pros down here. So for the pros of open source then, what benefits of open source do we think there is? Obviously everyone thinks there's benefits because we have people here wanting to know about open source. So what benefits are there of open source?
You don't need to reinvent things that are already done.
So reuse. Yeah. You want?
So it's a recognition like for a wall.
Yeah, that's cool.
Are we getting the right credits?
So attribution. Okay. Attribution as well. Anything else?
People can contribute and make it better.
There's a huge collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. Sweet. And collaboration. Okay. I think that's pretty much all the ones I said as well. Cool. See my wrong sheet. Yeah, so we've got reuse, recognition, collaboration. Collaboration is interesting. We'll cover that in more detail. So pretty much, I guess my job here right now is to get you guys from the fears section into the pros section. And tell probably my stories about how I came to that and make sure we address those questions. So now, yeah, I think we've nailed everything right there. So, for the still my work, that's probably when I started off doing open source work. I released lots of jQuery plugins, I was doing lots of JavaScript, and I was creating these jQuery plugins that were easily reusable because I would be able to reuse it on my websites. And I was also afraid that people were going to take my work and not actually give me attribution for it. And so I released my stuff under the AGPL license. So the GPL is like this huge gigantic license that says you must like give people attribution, everything has to be under the same license. It was quite a pain. But so I was like, yes, this license is going to protect me. I can still accomplish the goals of reuse so people can reuse this plugin. I get recognition because people go to my GitHub and they know about it. And I get, attribution as well there. And people get help with this project by doing it. However, people still stole it and people still charge for it. That was kind of a big problem. And I thought it was a problem, I guess, at the time. And it really peeved me because they were popping up in Google quite first, and it did really annoy me a bit. But then I moved on to it, and I actually started contributing to a project that had the same license, which was Logi Editor. It kind of lets you edit web pages directly, so you don't have to use something like WordPress. You can just get this editor and actually edit the website in line. And as a contributor to that project, I just wanted to be able to take pieces of it and just mash up my own little solution. And to do that, their license, this really restrictive license that I licensed my own things under, was holding me back from being able to accomplish the reuse and the collaboration part. I couldn't easily contribute because this license was holding me back. And we said to the people behind that, please, you have to go to a more permissive license, a license that allows me to collaborate and do my own stuff and mix it up. And I'll happily perform attribution, I happily say, this is your stuff. But they're like, no, the AGPL is very important to us because of these fears. And what ended up happening was then the contributors actually ended up teaming up and then building their own permissively licensed software. So the company that created this restrictively licensed software set everybody up in a way that we had to compete with them originally. And that's really where these benefits start coming from, because we now were able to build a solution that had these benefits. But this is kind of why the talk has been called Open Source Will Leave You Behind, because I really believe that if you do go around in a closed source way, you are setting yourself up for people to then create a permissively licensed solution where they can team up and collaborate together. And as design students, you guys are probably thinking, well, if I close source my stuff, if I don't release the source like the Photoshop files or the process I created in doing this, people aren't going to steal my design. But generally, at least with, say, Twitter and things in China, there's clones for all of these services on whatever level you have. And I think it really comes down to, with open source, there's kind of three areas. There's the technique. In creating it, then there's our source, and then there's the end result. Now, as design, generally people always just see this end result section, right? That's the interface we have to use on our phone. And this is an area where it's interesting, because when we use these phones, and especially when we download iPhone apps as well, and when they're very well designed, our mind instantly starts thinking, oh my god, this is so amazing. What can I do with this? How can I remix this? How can I take these ideas and apply it to our own app? And we end up just reverse engineering our own solution and then starting the ball again with our own solution. And that's exactly what happened with this Aloha editor project. They started off with this closed source solution, and we had to reverse engineer our own with the beliefs in open source that we had. Can everyone relate to that? Cool, sweet. Now, generally when people think of open source, we think about this area, which is on GitHub. I can share some code, and I can share the stuff I've already created, right? So we can just copy and paste the source to generate a result, and we can mix and match these pieces of source. With Photoshop, or with design, a good example could be Twitter Bootstrap of achieving the source. We can share just components of our design, and same with jQuery UI and web design. And if we turn to hardware would be, like, say, source, for like, the tractor would be the end result, the bits of the pieces would be the source, like the engine, the wheels, and the technique would be the mechanics who are able to create it. And even in hardware-related fields, we still have this open source revolution, which is people share their techniques in how-to guides, blogs, WordPress, workshops, TAFE, university. That's where you learn the technique. The source is then exchanging parts, and we see that a lot as well. And then the result is the end result that spawns this, what if I do this? What if I remix it this way? Now, moving on from this Aloha editor experience, and I released my stuff under a more permissive license, and I released those jQuery plugins I made under a MIT license, which is do whatever you want. Just, if you publish this and you make a ton of money, make sure you include the original license, which is when you see like an iPhone app, they have this licenses section in it. Now for that, I noticed when I did release it under MIT, people stopped stealing my work because they didn't have to go against the system that was already there. Instead, they could work with the system. So they would just take my stuff and then just use it and actually abide by the rules I allowed them to use. Rather than having to go down this route, they could then go by this route to the result, right? So then me, and then probably existing, right? So that's the existing solution, and then probably my own solution. And by them being able to do this, that attribution is a straight line, because they can just immediately use my part. When if we close source it, they have to start from the beginning. And that's when you can think, oh my god, this person stole my work, because yes, they had to start from the beginning and they didn't give you that attribution. And that's really what I noticed. I noticed when I did give people the permission, then they were able to give myself the attribution. So, we tick this one off. Everyone solid on that? Fantastic. Not going to have enough money. And we've ticked that one off. Kind of. Well, we'll tick that one off when we cover that. So then what happened was, as I was releasing all these projects for free, these jQuery plugins, I started to notice, okay, people are using it, but I'm not earning any money to maintain these projects, which became quite of an issue. But there was a solution to that. Which was, as I crept up to popularity, because more people were using my things, I got more GitHub followers, I got more people knowing who I was, because they were like, hey, I want to do this. Benjamin Lupton's already doing it, use his stuff, and then that word of mouth cycle continued. People kept using my stuff and talking about it and improving it. And I was like, yes, I'm going to earn so much money from these open source projects, but they were free. I wasn't earning any money from them. But through this gained popularity or reputation that I was going through the attribution and recognition area, my hourly rate was able to increase higher. So while I wasn't able to immediately earn money from these open source things I was giving away for free, I was able to get that money back by charging more money myself. And yeah, that really became quite apparent when I created a project called History.js. I thought, yes, I'm going to earn so much money from this project, it's going to be amazing, everyone's going to use it, and everybody did use it. It's one of the top 40 projects on GitHub in JavaScript. So that was my claim to fame. And turns out I was still flat broke with that. And I moved over from Perth to Sydney. Perth is a little country town, a big country town. And I moved over to Sydney, which is the capital of tech in Australia. And as soon as I moved over to Sydney, people were like, oh, Ben, you created History.js, wow, that's amazing. And I was like, well, I guess I did, thanks. But the clients had all that reputation, and instantly I went from charging nothing to charging a lot of money to actually pay for my own lifestyle. But eventually, as more and more people started using it, I was actually able to work, say, 2 days a week, and then work on this open source stuff 3 days a week, which is quite amazing, because when you think, okay, I want to work on open source stuff all day long, you're just how do you earn the money? But if you keep working up that chain where you can grow that reputation, then you can work 1 day a week eventually, and then 4 days a week on this open source stuff that just increases your rate on that 1 day a week. So ideally, 10 years from now, work 1 hour a week and earn a ton of money. And then work on what I love. But it didn't really stop there, because I still wanted to be able to work more and more on what I wanted. And these 2 days were originally, I started off 5 days a week and maybe a few hours at night time working on these open source stuff. And then 3 days or 4 days a week, and then 1 day on this open source stuff. And this open source stuff kept allowing me to work smaller and smaller. But I really just wanted it so I could work on these open source things all day long, right? It's really what I enjoyed. I love being able to do these positive attitudes, and I don't like living in this fear section. So I thought to myself, how can I really achieve this benefit? How can I really accomplish these values in me? How can I work on the things I love all the time? And what I ended up realizing, I went through a few experiences, a few bad experiences, where I worked with clients and they ended up burning me quite badly, not paying bills, things like that. And I started to realize, okay, I'm not picking the right clients here. It's not the client's fault, it's myself. I'm not picking the clients that actually align with me. And after actually sussing out and saying no to a lot of clients that thought in this way of, okay, I understand, Ben, that you want to open source some of our work, but I don't really want to. I have these fears. it didn't allow me to achieve those goals. And when I started working with clients that said, oh yeah, you want to open source our stuff? That sounds awesome. We'll be able to get the reputation and be great. Then that actually worked really well, because for them, I was able to work on my own open source solutions, and they were able to get the end result, their business value accomplished. And at the same time, I was accomplishing my needs and they were accomplishing their needs. So it was a true win-win situation. And that's like a huge fear, saying no to clients originally. Like, you know, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to go without work for a while. But you got to say no to open up the opportunities for the people you say yes to. Because if you're saying no to, or you're saying yes to everybody, then you can't say yes to the person who's actually going to align really well to you. And that worked out quite well. Now I'm working 2 days a week at a startup that really aligns with my open source work. So yeah, 2 days a week work on open source stuff and the implementation for their closed source solution. And the other 3 days I was able to grow the other open source work to build my reputation even higher. So we've now ticked off the not going to earn enough money. Would we agree? Or have I not convinced you yet? You're shaking your head.
No, I am convinced.
Oh, that's like a
Yeah, it's different.
Alright. So probably, oh, we should have like a lesson section here perhaps. Or is someone writing notes with like little lessons of the outcomes? Sweet. You can share those notes. And then we'll achieve that stuff. Everyone will be like, Vasagit, you're awesome. You gave me all this stuff. Yeah. I'll probably, I don't know, maybe we can release this on the Creative Commons or something. It'd be even more awesome. So, yeah, we've got say yes to clients that align with you. That align. And I guess the other section there is when a client says, hey, you want to open source part of our stuff, convince me why I should do that. And that was something I had to convince Bughurt about, which was the startup, because they had a lot of open source work that we were using in that project, and they want that sold. So the idea with that was, okay, Bughurt, you earn your money through a point-and-click tracker, right? So their core business value was they can collaborate with bugs easier than everybody else. That was their core business value. So does developing like a query engine that provides NoSQL queries or backbone actually accomplish that business value for them? No. The only thing that accomplishes that business value was the entire solution, every single part. So unless we release the entire app, then they still got that business value. So we were able to release these bits, and as we did that, on the 3 days a week where I was doing my own open source stuff, I was improving that stuff for free for them. And then 2 days a week, you know, they get the benefit where I get paid, and I work on the more implementation stuff, the getting that project in there. So we've got that, we've got not going to earn enough. But then product development and trust on the center. Yeah, that's probably the next one. So it's like, okay, as an open source developer, I'm working late at night, you know, 1 hour on the train on the way home from work, something like that. How can I build this trust in my solutions? And definitely, like, say, History.js is a project that shuffled from that, because that was so easy to implement. And the uses of that, like, if you've got a project that's used by like 40,000 people and you're just one person, you can't keep up with all of those requests. And a recent project I've done is a project called DocPad, which takes a different tact on things. It's like a CMS like WordPress, but uses newer technologies for that. And for that, we start off in a way where, from the very beginning, we've empowered people to actually implement the change from the start. So this is a great example. Has anyone ever been to a website and there's like a bug on that website, or like there's a typo, and it's just like, oh my god, I wish I could fix that, and you can't fix that? Or like using a tech product and it's like, I wish it had that feature. And you send them a little feature request and like, I've got the skills for that, just let me code it, it'll be amazing. Or maybe, I don't know, there's probably examples with design as well, where like, this iPhone app is crappy, maybe I can make that even better. But when you do that, the result can actually end. This is probably frustration. That's one of the things. Or, I can do it better. right? So if you're not allowing people to be able to implement that change, and if they are frustrated enough, they'll go and start their own business because they're like, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to kick ass, and then like, you guys are too old school, you're going to be left behind in the dust. So, where was I? I went on like
The trust bit.
Can someone catch me up?
We were talking about the trust bit.
Hmm?
It started about the trust bit.
Exactly, the trust. And then we got into the empowerment. Yeah, I know where I was at now. Thank you. So, through this, there's other projects that are from the very beginning of, these are the guides for you to be able to contribute to our stuff. If you want to fix this bug, don't go create your own solution, just help us here, right? And through this technique, we're teaching people, if you want to help with this is how you do it, right? We told them the documentation, we gave them the guides to be able to help. We did blog posts, we did trainings, we did workshops, we did videos, we did meetups. We told everybody, if you want to build this, we'll help you be able to make our product better. And by doing that, it's kind of like another level. Because if we release just the source on GitHub, people can't make it better. You don't have that trust. You don't keep it growing. You have to have this technique where you can teach people how they can actually help. You have to be able to empower them so they can make the change they want to see, and just make sure people aren't frustrated. You've got to make sure that they're more in a mindset of, I can kick butt at this, I can do well, I can add to this, I can join these guys and I can improve my recognition, because then I can be like, oh yeah, I'm like a core contributor to this open source project that's earning a lot of money or something like that. So, and this area is everywhere. It's surprising because all of these areas are like this open source umbrella rather than open collaboration umbrella. And open source is just this bit, but under open collaboration you have all this. Because even if people reverse engineer the solution, you still end up with both solutions in the end. You're still collaborating, except with one way you're like, people are stealing my stuff. And the other way is like, I'm letting people use my stuff and they're enjoying it, right? And they're making my stuff better. And this is where we get into, it's kind of like monetized, but it's probably more the product development side here. So, as a developer working, not that much, if I'm empowering people, they can help. And if we've got 30 contributors working 1 day a week, that's 30 days a week, right, each day. So we're getting a whole team of people, to add to us all the time, which is a collaboration benefit. So that's really helped in my projects, like especially in DocPad, because when I'm doing client work and earning enough money to pay the bills with this open source work, I've been able to empower contributors to be able to do the tasks I can't do. And that takes some time to be able to inspire and motivate people to build that trust. And probably to build that trust, the only suggestion I have is just like be supportive of the people. I see a lot of open source developers saying, people say, hey, how can I implement this? And they'll be like, you're an idiot, you're off in that corner. And you can't do that. You have to be, hey, this is exactly how you can do it. You have to make sure they feel as if they can't do anything. So that's worked pretty well for me. And I guess like where I am now is I'm just focusing on this now. So just trying to teach everyone how they can do all the different things and be able to reproduce that from that area. So now we can probably move on to questions, and I'll convince you even more if you have any questions. So at least that was my story. So
I think I also like the part about your Cora's answer, in which you explain the design art being a process and an outcome.
yeah.
Maybe you could probably just share that as well. Like pitching as how art and design are different and similar, and how different people look at design and art in different ways.
Yeah. So how is it? Design is the process of using a very scientific way. That's it. A scientific method. Technology was a scientific method. Design was a creative method. That was the word used. And art is the end result. So with Resaga, with Razagat's question, he said, why is it open source in design and in tech? And it's interesting because the definitions for technology and the definition of design are both the process and the end result. So when you see like a great interface, you'll be like, that's great design. But design is also the process. It's how people went about creating these things. And that process is a creative process. And technology is the same thing. When we see like a MacBook, we can be like, booyah, that's great stuff. Because it's got the design as well, but it functions really well. And the way generally we build something functioning is through a very scientific process. Is this solving the use case? Is this functioning correctly? Is it achieving all these different things? And we do like, there's a very specific process to make sure it meets those needs, like building a CPU. And in both areas, there is that open collaboration area, because with the tech they publish the papers, the university papers, they publish the source code, they teach people these steps to create it. And in design, they teach it more in a way, I guess, of this is like a great design, and how can we reverse engineer that as well? Well, they focus a lot on their technique, but they haven't been focusing on the source. They haven't been sharing Photoshop files. They've pretty much only just been focusing on the technique behind it and on the result. And because of that, people get frustrated and they build their own solutions rather than collaborating. When this is something where code has gotten easy, because it's so easy to share code, but it's so easy to share a Photoshop file as well, I guess. But there's no GitHub Photoshop files, which probably sucks a lot. So I think that's really the area. I think, if people share the Photoshop files, and they do, there are examples where designers publish their icons under Creative Commons, and those icons always end up so much more popular than the non-ones. And I know Adobe recently released an open source typeface as well, and that's exploded as well. And it's really interesting. I heard a story recently at a camp I was at last weekend, and the guy was telling me the story of a designer, like a really famous Swiss typeface designer. And a designer on the other side of the world had a client, and he had to design a typeface, and he went, hid himself in the basement for 2 months, designed this amazing typeface, and he came out of his side of his basement, and he designed the exact same font as this hotshot typography designer. And he emailed the designer, he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I've just reverse engineered your design. And the really famous typeface designer, he said, that's okay, we just had the same problem, and we've came up with the same solution. Right? So both people went down the same process. They said they had to do that process from scratch. And if we can share the pieces of this process and share all that pieces, then we don't have to start from scratch every single time. And this is probably another area where we can earn even more money, because as we share all these things, more and more people use it, and it builds our brand. We can't be an amazing brand if all our work has been NDA'd and we're working for a government contract and we're not allowed to tell anybody about that, because when we come out of that contract, they're going to be like, show us examples of your prior work, and you'll be like, sorry, can't do it, it's all NDA. But the ones who share so much, everybody knows these really famous designers, and that's probably because they've shared and they've talked and they've been able to help everybody else feel like they're a king and be able to accomplish anything. And at least for myself, like say with Twitter Bootstrap, became insanely popular because they've been able to share all these different parts. And through that, there's no doubt that's going to be able to earn good jobs just because you can be like, I created this and it's been able to help so many people. So.
Just a few things to add. I guess for me, I'm from the end user perspective, so I sort of use the kind of stuff that you guys design and you get out there. I guess through the process of seeing a lot of people actually collaborate and work together, I've been able to see them build their own reputations, actually be able to get in the income that they thought was impossible or that they weren't getting, they're now getting, because they've built up that, okay, I know this designer, so we're going to use him, or we're going to use her. And then build up that trust, because I guess word of mouth is a very powerful thing. For one person to say to another person, I think you're the one for the job, or I think you know exactly what you're talking about here. actually a very powerful thing to have for another individual to say, I trust you. And by working together, they've been able to actually develop that trust without actually even having met. So how do you develop that trust when you haven't met an individual? So this it's can make a big impact on putting that trust together. So these designers, I found particularly when we were in Thailand and putting out for a workaway, and we met a few designers, and just being in touch with them, and then being able to go, look, I recommend you, and then them being able to go, well, I recommend you. And we've had clients come to us going, I've heard you know of a designer that's been able to do this and can do that. And they've been able to cut from working 14-hour days, cut down from working 7 days a week, and be able to pay their bills, be able to work on what they love. I'm guessing each and every one of you want to work on what you love. Then do it. That's the thing. You can either be the greatest person who can stop you from doing that, or you can get in there and go, like they were saying, the type of clients that you attract. It is okay to say no. You do not have to kind of go, I need to say yes, yes, yes. By working with a client that share your values, that trust is developing there straight away. And then they're going, I enjoy the value that I got from them, or I enjoy the value I got from that person. That's what brings the trust in. Whether there's a handshake or there's not, and that's how it happens. That if you keep doing what you love and you're working with the clients that share that value, the money will come. They will come to you. They will request you. And if you can recommend other designers as well, then that develops further trust because you've got such a huge network that you can work from that fear of someone stealing your work, it's not there. It doesn't matter. Because you're working with so many people that vouch for your reputation and for your work, this isn't a problem anymore. So the more you share and the more you work together, the less you actually have to worry. And from my perspective as a wife, I have seen this closed kind of network where nobody wants to help anyone, whether the minute you turn your back you get stabbed in the back. And I found the more that we managed to actually open this whole process up, the less we had to watch our back. And the more that we could reach out to these other designers, developers, coders, and clients. If you can make a client, give them that value and that satisfaction, that trust is there. And they will reach out to other clients. And I can tell you now, you will have more work than you can poke a stick at because you've developed that ability and that trust through opening everything up. It's kind of like, imagine having your hands tied and then a blindfold on and someone's got you in a corner and they're stabbing you going, you can't share this, you can't share that, you're not going to make any money, you've got bills and children and all this kind of thing like that. You know what? It's kind of like when you collaborate and work together and you open source that, it's kind of like you have the ability now to fight those fears and to fight back and to actually be very successful in getting your designs out there and being able to collaborate with other designers, brilliant people. You're not talking to your average group, brilliant people like yourselves being able to actually make a huge difference because you have that network out there. You've got all the power to do figures. So sharing that with other people, like they were saying, empowering another person. When you empower another person, you're making them feel like they can do anything. And it's sharing that and getting that out there that will do away with, I'm not going to make enough money. Because we've been there, but we've had no money. And we've been to all those places where it's very hard. And at the moment we've started to open up that process of collaborating and sharing, and getting in contact with other designers that share those values. You have more work than you want to do. So it's absolutely possible when you open that away to be able to share with other people and share your designs. They can actually improve your designs, you can improve theirs, and you have an absolutely magnificent product out there, and you have reputation. Reputation can go a long way, particularly when it's developed through your clients. So you can do away with a lot of that working together and sharing.
I think when it all comes together, it kind of looks like this process. Previously, we had a situation where we've got a select number of few people saying, this is my product, and they sell that product as the product. So the product is what actually earns them the money. And with an open source solution, you have a team of people, an unlimited amount of people, who then say, this is our product, we all help shape this, and they can all help shape this because you allow them to do that by making it easy for them to do. And by that, you can, if your product becomes complex and successful enough, then you can earn money through consulting, advisory, or you earn money through indirect means because you now have that reputation to say, I built something that has added value to many, many people. And this way, all of these people can then add their own experience, their own insight to help making this product better. And this way, it's only your select team. Like, I think everyone can imagine just like how many people out there could actually be benefiting our project. And generally people do that by like a forum for their closed source project or like a suggestions board, but people can't implement that change. And I think it comes down to, with open source or open collaboration, you're selling a brand and you're not selling the product. So the product you can give away for free, but if it helps improve the brand by this process. Oh, I didn't draw that process. But I guess this process where more and more people, they're like, I come back, I want more, yeah. So I think really it comes down to the question of whether or not you want to open source is just how difficult do you want to make the reverse engineering process. Because if you did something great, people want to copy you. People want to implement that change as well. And they can either reverse engineer it because they're frustrated they couldn't actually make your thing better, or you can empower them to make your thing better as well. So that's the process. Now, anyone, any more questions?
Have you worked with designers in any of your projects, and could you tell like any tips that probably designers would not probably be thinking about, and from a project point of view?
Okay, can you give an example of a situation in your life that's applicable?
No, we keep hearing this like there's some sort of communication gap between a designer and a developer.
Yeah.
So is that like when it comes to web apps, like or anything related to the web, like how could you probably improve it? Any suggestions that you probably have?
Yeah. So I think this is probably what you talked about there, which is with design, they're probably like, oh yeah, I'm doing this technique, I'm rocking up my design, I can add this shadow amazing, or I can code this interface and it'll really solve the problem, and then bang, here's the result. Right? And they focus all their experience on this technique behind this. So it's like, okay, maybe we can share the Photoshop, but the old skill comes here. When I think with code, or programmers, we all focus on the source because that's what we see all day long. We just see the source. When designers, they don't really see, they just see this process evolving at the technique level. That's probably where that communication gap is, because programmers were just like, share the source, it'll be amazing, whatever. But designers operate more here where it's something they're actually creating and interacting with. So how can we close that communication gap? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I guess I'm fortunate enough to have worked with designers that have gotten these lessons before. Like Helen was saying how we attended a thing in Thailand where we worked with designers and we just all sat around this table and we're like, hey, how can we accomplish this solution? And their impact or their pieces they were adding were around here. Or how can we make sure this result caters to fixes the user's needs? Right? And the programmers were thinking, okay, how can I accomplish the architecture? How can I do the middle piece between these two? How can I add the interaction to the design? And how can I actually create this? So I think like both things are essential. I guess in terms of how they can communicate better, I guess it's just understanding how the other side works. Because if you don't understand, then you don't appreciate it. So
it's sort of like actually, I guess, getting together and actually talking. It's amazing what happens when a bunch
way, people are generally thinking like me. As long as I win, it's okay. And for this way, it's like as long as the solution wins, it's okay. And this way, it's not about the individuals because they put that idea or what they're wanting to accomplish outside of themselves, so that's not bound by their own requirements. So I think it's like if you're in it for, I want to earn the most money and I want to, reap all the rewards, then you're not going to get that far because you're not going to inspire people to help you because they're going to be in it for the same reasons. I want to backstab you, right?
And clients, they're not going to come to you.
Yeah.
So we found that by actually meeting together with the designers, we're able to go, well, how can I make you happy? And they're like, oh, you can do this, this, and that. And how can I make you happy? So it's really, really important. I guess opening that up and collaborating, working together with your developers and with your designers, progress happens rather than that process of frustration and getting absolutely nowhere. So when we were talking with one designer in particular from the US, his name's Steve, and we were actually having a really good chat with him and saying, what is it that developers and that can kind of do to help you guys make that design process easier? So it's really important to get together.
And it's like from that meeting, like he had this idea for this iPhone app, which is kind of like Instapaper, and that was and we helped him with like, we were just like, hey, let's help you and we'll help along, and okay, this is the architecture you could use, these are the pieces of tech you can use, and we did that for free. But in doing so, we were able to get indirect value back because he was like, hey, Ben is awesome, he knows his stuff, right? Because he was actually able to experience this stuff and he's forwarded clients as well.
We were able to actually go, well, we know a designer, and we know his
Yeah, and we know his skills as well, so we can recommend
him.
him.
That for him as well. And so when the clients actually come to you and go, look, I've got this problem, I've got this, and I want this design and that design, I know great designers that I would personally recommend and great developers. And it's that talking there and that communication that opened it up, and it settled a lot of the fears with clients. They're like, who's this? I don't know this person. Can I trust this person? I trust this person. It's my reputation on the line. Okay, fine.
I guess it's like, who are you going to trust? Are you going to trust the guy who talks about his stuff and shares it with everybody? You're going to trust the guy who has like a lot of stuff on his resume, right? You're going to trust the guy who is taught like walking the walk or just doing the talks. Does that answer your question? Any other questions?
Can you tell a little about DocPad?
DocPad?
Actually, a website, but I don't actually use it.
Yeah.
How do you find it, or how do you start it?
Okay, so DocPad was created out of this frustration. So there was a project called Jekyll for creating websites in an easier way. And I think generally when you create a solution, creating a solution that becomes popular is all about creating something that's simpler without the baggage of the previous solution. And it's kind of like where perfection is when you remove as much as you can. So as technology progresses, people are creating solutions without less baggage because now we can do more with less. So Jekyll was something that did that to WordPress. Jekyll came along and said, hey, do we really need a database? Do we really need all these different things? And the answer was like, no, we can simplify this process a lot. And however, they went about it in a way that was very boxed and it set a specific use case of they just do blogs. And DocPad came out of that frustration. I was like, I don't want to just do blogs, I want to do everything with this particular way of solving this problem. So I created that out of the frustration. And started my own thing. But the thing was open source. But I applied the idea and started from scratch in a way that did empower people to do whatever they want. And through that, from day one, I've talked about the big vision idea. I've talked every single thing about this process. Here's what we want to accomplish 5 years from now. Here's what we want to accomplish 3 years from now. 1 month, like 1 year from now, 6 months from now, 3 months from now. And that was actually able to inspire people to join that vision as well. So traditionally, like open source things, you just see the code, right? Or it's just this project, and like, that's nice. But if you're able to convince people in this vision or this idea, then it's like, oh yeah, I like that idea, I'm going to help him and join him to make that better. rather than just working on my own thing, because it could turn out that you have like 10 people all with the same idea, but because they don't talk about it, then they all end up doing the same thing. And that's not that useful if everyone's reproducing each other's work. If they collaborate, you can accomplish that end result a lot quicker. So that's how that's gone from day one, and now we've got about 30 contributors actively contributing to it. So for me, my goal right now is just to reduce myself as a bottleneck as much as possible, because still people are like, hey Ben, how can we accomplish this with DocPad? Hey Ben, how can we accomplish that? So I've just been focusing on like getting the documentation done, improving the ability for them to act in their own regard. So doing the talks and the workshops and the things like that I've talked about earlier. So like from day one, I've been making sure people feel like a king and they can impact the result.
Now, speaking to Steve, one of the designers
Yeah.
that I mentioned, he was very reluctant for a while. I'm not good at that. No, I know. And recently he sent us, we were talking to him online, and he said, oh my God, I wish I'd listened earlier. So in terms of that, it's actually made the design process for him much more efficient and enjoyable.
Yeah.
To get that enjoyment out of his design process was a massive value add for him, and he'd actually found it quite easy to sort of implement a lot of the designs through using a much easier process.
And it's interesting because with that project, with DocPad, you know, I started off just one guy, and one guy can't create something amazing. You need that team of people. So, you know, I wrote our big plans and the vision for it, and so people could see where it's heading, and people were able to contribute. And like, say for the DocPad website, that was actually designed by a consulting studio who were using DocPad for their own clients. So I'm not earning any money for that, but they were like, we believe in that vision. We're going to design the website for you and do the website. And then another contributor was like, dude, I love DocPad, I love using it. I'll code the website for you. So we were able to get the website done. I was just able to guide people on that vision. So yeah, it's just amazing how, like, you know, I've been able to reduce or bring that idea outside of me, so then other people can do the same and just connect on that idea.
So I guess, Ben, how does DocPad make the design process easier for designers? In what way would they say use it?
Oh, well, I guess the answer to that is it just removes all the bulk. You don't need a database set up. You don't need to have this interface or this limiting interface where you don't have to hit all these brick walls. Instead, you can just do your code. Like our slogans, DocPad sets you free. So, you know, it's just you don't have those barriers, which is cool. It's something that's worth trying out. For end users, it's not there yet, but because I've been able to share that idea, we're working on solutions for end users to be able to use it as well. Right now, it's just focused on developers and designers. So, does that answer your question?
That's cool.
Cool.
Did anytime when you were starting off, did you really feel that, man, I should stop doing all this open stuff and like, let's make money and not share everything?
Yeah, so when I was starting off, like when my open source solutions were still under the AGPL, so very restricted license, like I was earning like chips, like I wasn't earning enough to live kind of thing. Then when I released all that men and my reputation increased and I was able to land real good client work, and I started accepting clients that actually aligned with myself. Then there came a period of about 6 months where I worked with Bughead so well and I gave them everything I could that I deprecated myself out of the picture. Like I made it so I didn't have to be there anymore, right? So, you know, there just came a time where I was just like, hey Bughead, I don't think I'm needed anymore, to be honest. So I trained the juniors and I just like removed myself from that equation. And it was good. We left that on a good note because it was just like, it's time to move on to the next thing. It's time to keep progressing.
So yeah, we ended up with
And-
a terrific relationship with clients who we've never even personally met.
Because
It's incredibly important, and they were so pleased with the work. Now that they've been able to speak for us, and been able to sort of have that trust there, it's been actually a really good process.
Yeah, so through those 6 months at Bughead, we were able to make Query Engine one of the projects inside DocPad so much better, because for the 4 days to eventually the 1 day a week I worked for Bughead, I was working on Korean Engine, making it even better. So then on DocPad benefited from that as well. But then there came a time where I was like, okay, I've just left Bughead. I've now got probably 6 months of savings done. And I kept getting offers. I did get job offers, but they weren't jobs that aligned with myself. They were jobs with companies that said, hey Ben, sign this NDA. We're going to own a portion of your brain, and you won't be able to share that with anybody else. Right? And I was just like, how could I not share? Because if I even reverse engineer the solution, they would still come after me. Which was an experience I had earlier. Like, yeah, it was all resolved now, but it was just annoying, to be honest. But we went through 6 months, and it came to a point where Helen just said to me, like, Ben, you better know this is going to work.
I looked in your eyes and I said, if you have any doubt, I looked at him and I said, very, very confidently, I said, if you have any doubt, you tell me now. Because it's a big deal. We have children, we have bills to pay just like the rest of you. And you're going to get that tough time when someone says, go out and get a job, go and get some real work. What you are doing is
like
real. What you're doing is incredibly valued. So you have to be insane. You must believe in yourself enough to kind of go, anybody else that has those doubts in you, that's their problem, that's their doubts. Because you're incredibly gifted and talented people. And so you have to have that insane belief, and believe me, he's insane. And I really had to look at him and go, if you have an inch of doubt in yourself, don't do this. So you've really got to believe in yourself to kind of go,
yeah,
I know what I'm doing. So
there came a point where we had 1 month of money left, and that's like when we're like, shit, we got to find some money.
because that one month is our rent. You don't pay your rent.
But
sorry.
it was surprising, because then I was like, okay, I've been working on this open source thing, and it's like, okay, is this going to make it? And Helen's like, okay, what should we do? And I was like, damn it, Helen, I'm going to make sure this works. And I got really like,
Yeah, you got quite angry and said, go out and get a job. And I went, don't you tell me to go out and get work. I said, I have worked hard. I work hard for you and our kids. And I said, don't you tell me that. And I said, well, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to do whatever it damn well takes. So for you guys, you will get to that point where you'll go, I've got nothing. Everyone's on my back. And then you'll go through that process. But you have to stand up for yourself and go, get stuffed. I'm going to do this, I can do this, and I will do whatever it takes. Because you have what it takes. You have it, it's always been there. But it's enough to kind of go to someone, I have what it takes, I believe in this. And mixing with the kind of people that say to themselves, I've got what it takes too, have you got it? Let's work together. So it's being in that environment with other people too that foster that. If you get people saying, they're not the people for you. Get rid of them. You don't need that kind of crap in your life. You've got enough going on gathering. So you don't need you get your parents on your back, you get this, you get that, and you get your wives. Or your husbands kind of going, hey, we've got this to pay, we can do this and that. You're going to get through that, but you must believe in yourself. How important that is to kind of go, I think it's nice to share with you.
Yeah, it was just amazing, because we entered this mindset of, oh my god, we're running out of money. And we reached that point where like we kind of snapped, and I kind of like broke out. I was like, damn it, I'm going to do everything it takes. And like I started making some phone calls and getting in contact with people, like, do you have any work, things like that. And then like a few days later, I arranged a meeting with a guy who had been following me on Twitter for a very long time, like for about 3 years now. He found History.js, the project I worked on about 5 years ago. And he believed in the vision I was chasing. And he's been following me for a while, and we had a few conversations. I love what you're doing. Let me know if you need any help. And I was like, I've talked to Casper, his name's Casper, and I said, hey Casper, kind of hit a roadblock here, don't have any money, we got 1 month to live before our funds run out. And he's like, no worries man, how much money do you need? Oh, he's like, yeah, how much money do you need for the next month? And I was like, oh, probably this amount of money. And he's like, fine, I have it wired to you tomorrow. Now, for the next month, what are we going to do to make sure you can monetize your work? What can we do to make sure you can continue and prosper forward? And we ended up coming up with a list which was interesting, because DocPad so far was all just about empowering everybody, making a great product, and we never focused on the monetize aspect. So then we set up the company website, we pushed the DocPad website live, and we said, look, we do all this amazing stuff, you can hire us, this is the way to go. And I started attending workshops and talking about my ideas as well, because I was just so busy coding, just coding all the time. I never talked about these ideas. That's why he was like the only one that believed in me. And then as soon as I started getting out there and actually talking to people, then more and more people started believing. And then one guy at one of the trainings I did for a Node.js workshop, he's just like, dude, I have this idea for this project. I hear you're an awesome Node developer, I can see it. When can we start to use? So I was like, oh yeah, let's do a meeting tomorrow, it's done. Like upfront payment all sorted, and it's like, flexible work, amazing client, able to pay the bills, and that works with DocPad. So, finding the client work is just, in hindsight, it depends on what mindset you're after, because are you in a mindset of like scarcity, where it's very hard to get things, or can you just flip the switch and then join that mindset of like abundance that, there are so many people out there, there's so much money out there, how can you just tap into that? Because if you're like, there's no money, then that's what you're going to reproduce.
Yeah, so if you're focusing on money all the time, going, I've got to pay this and I've got to pay that, you're going to end up like this.
Yeah, it's like if you're
not...
not...
end up a bit of a nutcase, because you're going to end up stressed, you're going to have everybody on your back, and you're going to be worried about money all the time.
Yeah.
When we realised that wasn't money, not having the money wasn't the problem, it was here. We had to kind of go, my goodness, because we've shared all our work, because we've opened it up, there are all those people out there like, hey, I could use you for this, or I could use you for that. And before you know it,
Yeah, it's kind of like when we left Bughead, our goal was to avoid failure, right? That's like the goal, to not run out of money. So it's like, that's what we're trying to achieve, to not run out of money. But, if we look back and we're probably like, what's our goal for the next 6 months? To build our business as big as possible. And like, things probably would have worked out differently, because that's what we realized when I chatted to Casper. He's like, dude, how can you get as much money as possible in this 1 month's time frame? So, it just worked out. It's just like a change of mindset.
So it's not about, if you're focusing on the product all the time, you're focusing on your design all the time, you're going to be worrying about this all the time, money all the time. Whereas when we were actually able to, because we had sold our brand so much so, and talked to people, treated people like they were human beings. Like that you place that trust in someone, they're more inclined to want to trust you as well. So by opening that brand out there, people were coming to us, designers were coming to us, they were using our product, we were able to help them as well. And these kind of things weren't an issue as much. So as designers, by selling your brand and by talking a lot about what you're able to do and what you can do for your client, you're able to bring in the profitability income from doing that, just from talking and getting your brand out there and working with people, working with your designers and your developers and your clients, giving them a lot of, I guess, say over that. And this is what we bring in with the income of the product. So it's really cool.
I think one lesson though I've had that touches on it is, it's all good to like focus on making as much money as possible, improving your business as much as possible. But unless you're personally ready for that, then you're going to overflow your bucket and you're going to stress out and freak out and be like, oh my god, I've got this huge to do. And you have to make sure you're ready to handle that. Your bucket's big enough to actually be able to handle these new responsibilities. Because, say if I wanted to probably hop in Mark Zuckerberg's shoes tomorrow, I'll probably like freak out and jump out a window or something, maybe like crush Facebook down to like $0 in the stock market. But, if you as well, just always be like improving your bucket at the same time you're improving your skills, and work out. You have to make sure at the same time you've covered your base and like your bottom line, you still got your family to feed, you're still growing, you're still happy. And that's the important thing. If you're not happy, then what are you doing?
So if you're finding yourself all the time you're stressed out and unhappy and you haven't got any money, you haven't got any, you're working with the wrong clients.
But that's an interesting thing because, yeah, that's the thing. Like when I was going through all the hard times, I was just focusing on how can I improve my bucket, because that was an issue. It wasn't an issue about what was going on externally. It was what's going on inside here, right? I entered this mindset of, you know, failure or not earning enough money. So I was like, okay, how can I improve this bucket and just grow to that next level of business as well? So, yeah, and I think one of the quotes that has stayed with me is, has there ever been a time when you've been anxious and you haven't been imagining a future scenario going bad? Right? So every single time like I found myself anxious, it's actually because I'm imagining something going bad. It's not even a real situation, it's a future situation in my mind that I'm imagining. So it's like, okay, let's just imagining something positive instead. So, anything else?
This is the first trip to India.
Yes. I love it. It's so good. I love it.
I would definitely say that, we've had all these preconceived ideas through clothes stores and things like that, but to sort of illustrate is that by talking to you people, we've been able to go, you know what, that's such a load of crap. You know? And we've been able to go, you guys are fabulous, polite, beautiful people, culture is amazing, food. Awesome. What you get from that by talking to other designers and other people, and really that selling your brand out there, not so much your product, will really open it.
Yeah, it's interesting because the only reason I'm here is one of the users of DotPad was like, hey Ben, you should submit a proposal, you should talk about DotPad Meta Refresh. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of Meta Refresh, sounds interesting. But it turns out the conference isn't for technical stuff, it's for probably what we're talking about now. So it's like, okay, so I submitted some other proposals, and then, who was it, Kieran got in contact with you or something, and yeah, then I answered that on Quora, now I'm here, so it's like, you know, it's just, if you commit to making everybody's life better, then it's just like, it's reciprocated.
Yeah, as soon as you stop worrying about it's mine, it's all about me, you are going to be able to get out there and go, it's all about everybody. Every single one of us want to be what, happy? We want to not have to worry about when our next meal is. We want to have our family by our sides. And we want to be doing what we love every day. And we make it so hard for ourselves because we live in this thing all the time. It's all mental. We feed ourselves these doubts and these problems. And in the end, you end up amazing, talented people.
Holding yourself back.
Hold yourself back. And I mean, it's kind of like, why do we do it? So it's that process of actually realising that and going, the more you share with people, the more you let go of these fears that it's holding everybody back, and the less you worry about me, going, well, how can I help you? And then that person goes, dude, you helped me 3 months ago, how can I help you?
Yeah, it's amazing because in Sydney, when I moved to Sydney, I just did a tweet saying, hey, looking for some work, and because I don't introduce, I had a lot of followers. And instantly startups are just like, hey, we've got some spare work for you, can you work out? And it started off at like really like bottom line like level work, but you know, paid the bills. I had that bottom line covered, and then they were ecstatic with that quality work. I wasn't like, oh, I'm being paid shit, I'm going to give you shit results. It was no, you're giving me money, so I'm going to do my bloody best for you. Yeah, and then they were like, oh my god, Ben's so good, and they told all the other startups, like the people who would pay more. And then they were like, hey, you know, we've heard you're good, here's like a lot of money, do your stuff, or do your magic.
And you work with quite a number of people.
Yeah, and I worked with like a whole bunch of people, and then even with people who were like, hey, we've got this problem, Ben, let's brainstorm. And then like at the end, I would just be like, alright, here's all my suggestions. I don't think I'm the right person for this job. We'll probably have to find someone else, but like best of luck. Like I gave them everything for that 2-hour initial brief. But, you know, it's like, this doesn't align with where I'm going right now, thanks. And then they leave that, I'm like, boy, I've got all this advice, I can feel like a king, I can work up this ladder. And they would tell everyone else, and I'd be like, boy, Ben couldn't do the end result for me, but boy, he knows this stuff. And now I just keep talking. It's like, just the support I've been able to get from people just has been amazing.
He worked on a process that was called 99 which is now a multi-million-dollar startup
But we're not one.
they're doing pretty darn well. So working with those designers and that kind of thing through the process, it's really important for designers as well as the developers to work with you guys. So if you're frustrated about something, tell your developers and get them to kind of get a win-win situation for the both of you to make a good product. But by doing that, even when they're not quite the right person, it's okay to say, look, I'm not quite the right person.
Yeah, I don't know
Because
myself.
when you do that, then your clients are going to go, it's okay, you know, they have that trust in you, and then knowing that they will recommend you and recommend other people to you just the same. So it is okay to kind of say, I don't think I'm the right designer for you. Because when you do that, you are kind of...
You don't set yourself up for failure in 6 months. Because if you're not entering a win-win, then someone's losing. And if someone loses, then they're not going to have a good reputation for you when that project ends. And if you just keep focusing on situations that are win-win, you may go 6 months without work, but you're going to have so many people that support and believe in you on the way. So they'll be able to pick you up if you fall down. And I fell down and they all picked me back up.
Yeah, we did, so we failed many times. We got down right down to the process where we had nothing. And it's very scary, but when you have that belief in yourself to kind of go, and more importantly, the clients and the developers and the designers that you work with see that you really know your stuff, then you've got to make them help pick you up. So you will probably at one time or another fall on your ass. Okay? But I tell you what, you can get back up. And having that process, when you move from all this, you're now in this area here, you're out of that process where you've got no one to help you up. Because there are so many people out there that have either heard about you, worked with you, used your product, seen your design. They will be the ones to help pick you back up. And like I said, the work will flow.
That's like the surprising thing with open source projects. Like Overthrow.js, it compresses JavaScript to make it really, really small. jQuery use it. And the author of that put up a funding campaign for like $8,000 and he was able to get that. And it's just like, it's just amazing how these open source projects who have added value have gone so much without money. And then just like, because they've helped so many people, then they just come together. It's like, you know, and you can have to feel like, oh, I don't think I've added enough value, but unless you try, you don't know. Because if you don't try, then it's always a no. Lots of that. But I think everyone can now understand like why this talk is, why open source will leave you behind. Because it's not about you, it's about the big vision you have for all of us.
It's about everybody else. For me as a healthcare provider, I see UMass, and I guess for me seeing that perspective that it wasn't just about me and the medical health I could assist people with, it was about the people that came to me. It was about the people that were there. And when I realised that, then I loved what I did, and I had a passion for that. And that was supported by a whole heap of other people. You're going to get people, you're going to get designers and developers and other people that are going to go, you will get that. But what you choose and how you choose to take that will make the difference between not succeeding and succeeding in itself. So then you realise it's not just about you and about your product, and you get out there and you're trying to help a large majority of people, then you'll be incredibly successful with giving people that are able to add a lot of value to a lot of people. And that's where it adds, and that's where that work will come in.
So I think we just got a bit airy-fairy there. Like, high level stuff. Let's try and brainstorm some things we can take away from this and we can act on. So we've got some ideas of like what they're going to do from now on to improve things. Anyone? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do more workshops.
I think one of the things that we're trying to do is try and share whatever assignments we're doing at campus and see if somebody could take away something from that. More ideas.
I was just wondering that, like you said, people, there would be some designers who wouldn't want to start something but would want to collaborate and contribute somewhere else. Like in that case, like how do we actually start out with it? Like where do we search for?
So, can you give an example?
Like if you look at the coding perspective, like as a developer, you have to go to like there something like that for the designer?
Oh, so like how can designers help each other? Dribble is a fantastic resource for that. Have you used Dribble? Okay, so Dribble is kind of, designers upload the designs, it's kind of invite only, but they'll have that design and then people can post comments and say, hey, try this, try that, try this. And it's optional to put your source on it, so it's optional to put your PSD, but it's all about showcasing your work and then receiving advice from top designers. So Dribble is kind of like the GitHub for designers.
Yeah, but what about if you want to collaborate with another developer, right?
Yeah.
Say the developer will do the backend and I don't want to contribute to the front.
Okay. So there's probably a few barriers for that because the code is probably thinking, I know my stuff and you know my stuff, don't mess with my stuff. So I think it's important to know where each person stands because you don't want to be intruding someone else's space. But I think making it as easy so people do know how to contribute, like perhaps say, okay, the designer can say, I want to be able to do this, I want to increase perhaps pair programming or do a review process on that commit. So that way the developer can overlook it and then provide you with constructive advice to move forward. Like, hey, perhaps you, instead of using on-click, on the actual thing, instead do a click event with jQuery or something like that. To actually be able to give you advice to move forward. If they're just like, don't touch my stuff, and it's like, maybe they're not there to actually help you.
I think one thing that we do in the city, where we are in Sydney, they do have like an office where a bunch of designers and developers can actually get together.
Oh, co-working space.
So like a co-working space. You've got an immense amount of talent sitting in this room now. So
yeah, probably like just in Thailand.
Sort of sitting together and actually going, hey, what are you working on? Getting involved in what one another is actually doing.
There's
will make a huge difference then, because if you are talented people, you work with each other, get together. It's like a mastermind, I guess you could say.
There's a company in Perth called Frontier Group, and every morning they do a stand-up meeting, and everyone says what they're going to work on during the day, and they say what problems they're facing. And what will happen is they'll say, okay, I'm facing this problem, and then someone who knows the solution will be like, I know the solution to that, and they'll pair program for the day and help each other out. And someone will be like, hey, and even if they don't know the solution, someone will be like, that sounds like fun, let's help, and they'll be designers, developers, it doesn't matter. And they're just there to help each other. Another company in Sydney called Atlassian, they have one day a week where they can work on whatever they want. They're still owned by the company, they're not allowed to do anything, but they get to work on the features of the product that they believe in, make it better. So then people will be like, hey, this is the feature I want to work on, and they'll recruit people throughout the week to try and help them accomplish that. So, otherwise a co-working space where it's just like, hey, here's an idea, let's do a brainstorming session and make this happen.
So I actually sort of found that process when I walked into this room and there were all of you, like, we're all sitting like this, like that, and I just thought, wow, they're all in the same room. It's like they can, each of them, one of them will come up and go, huh. And they will put together having that process where you can actually meet in a place and they will have tips, something to eat, something to drink, make it quite comfortable for one another. But having somewhere to go and someone to talk to, someone to work with, was something that you could kind of go, I'm not all on my own.
Yeah, that's probably the thing, like with cubicle jobs. So often, like you'll hit a bug and you start stressing, and then the deadline will fall back. And it's like in reality, it's just like if you just told them like a stand-up meeting, I had this bug, someone probably knows a fix for it. So it's like I think trying to maybe introduce a stand-up in the workplace if they have it, or maybe the pull request review would be a good way, and just do contributing guys like document everything on a wiki. This is how this is done. I know like a lot of companies, they don't use wikis, they're just like, okay, you're a new recruit, I'm going to have to dedicate 2 days to like training you one-on-one, when they could just do like a wiki page, which is like, these are all the steps, these are the things you have to install, these are the common problems you're going to have. Just keep that wiki internal if it's still, secure stuff. But, that way the person can do their own stuff, they can be like, oh yeah, and then if they hit a problem, they can just ask questions rather than wasting so much resources.
Yeah, I've sort of seen that a lot of the guys actually accomplished more in that 1 hour than they had in 5 days. You kind of think, oh, how does that make sense? Because they have all these other great minds there that they can actually talk to and ask. So you've got it all in this room. You had incredibly talented people. So get together, like get good results, and then actually open up what you're all working on, and there anyone that can help? You might think, well, how am I going to get my work done? Well, you've got plenty of people there to help.
Yeah, that's like the
And
good
it
thing.
happens.
That's like the good thing with GitHub. When you just post an issue on it, and someone smarter than you will actually fix it. So it's like, does that help? The co-working area is interesting. Like, I'd love to set up a co-working space in like Bali or India or Vietnam, like wherever. Let's say you pay this amount of money, you get your accommodation set up, and you just get like awesome people like yourself just in this room together hacking whatever you want. Like that's like my dream workplace. That's like what I want to accomplish.
That's something he's working on next, which is,
Yeah, that's the next thing
like,
I'm focusing on.
give me one thing at a time first. So, but that's to follow next. I think the valuable thing that we really got from when we went over to Thailand and we were able to work with incredibly, absolutely amazing people. We had people that were working on robotics, that were MIT people, that were PhD, and the frustrating thing that they came up against every time was that they had no one to talk to. No one to actually go, I'm having some problems here, what can I do? And I think for me, what I got out of that was just that, the immense amount of talent that was there, and being able to have someone really great to talk to. So if you're up for it, that might be one of the challenge for you to kind of undertake, is to just get together and night it out and get to know you. Other students get to know you.
Eat with your peers.
Eat with them. You get to find out some very interesting things. But that was a very valuable thing that we got from it, is just working with a lot of different people and getting to know them. So yeah, having that co-working space. And it's kind of seen with a lot of startups, particularly in Sydney, that is almost something you don't not consider. So that might be an interesting that it really helped a lot of you getting through the university, getting through your degree and not having to make a lot of mistakes, because you can actually avoid them. So yeah, working with a lot of other great minds really assist all.
So we got co-working space, reviews, stand-ups, group dinners. Any other steps we can take to kind of stuff? So everyone's going to do the suggestions.
The next time we come back, it will be great to see how you guys have sort of progressed a lot with that and where you've headed with your designs. Just remember, it's okay to be insane. You've got to have that mad belief in yourself.
Provided you can convince other people.
Yes,
Actually, but then again, yeah, probably like all the smart people in like the previous centuries and stuff, or like didn't convince anybody. Now they're like foundations of like for all our physics and electricity.
So, even when a lot of people don't believe in you, you don't have to take that on. Don't take it on. It's really a waste of time. You have to kind of go, I am pretty awesome. I can do a lot of really amazing things. You keep your own issues and your own dramas to yourself. Go and watch Oprah Winfrey, that's your thing. But leave your crap outside. I've got some cool stuff to work on. You want to work with me, you don't get lost. And unfortunately, yes, you have to be quite frank with that, but you are cool people, awesome, amazing, you must believe in yourself.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. Like I still get emails saying, "Hey Ben, can you help us with all this stuff for free?" I'm like, I'm sorry, but I get like an email like that non-stop. It's like I don't have the resources to do it, but here's the directions you can go. Post on Stack Overflow, join the do this wiki. It's like, I can't help you, but there's plenty of people who can. So it's like, still do it nicely. Don't say like bugger off, but like just say, I'm not the person.
You kind of get the idea that you can either have the attitude, I'm on my own, or I can open this up and I've got a huge resource available to myself.
So yeah, for us the next thing is for DocPad being able to be more clear on the ways we can charge for things, like do tier 3 support and then say here are the tier 3 people, and the tier 2 people, here's the tier 1 people. So which skill level do you require? Here there's the companies that do it, and just be really upfront about how people can earn money from us. That's the step, and through that then everybody changes. So my job changes, instead of this person talking about things into, hey, I know the people in order to make this happen, and we can manage it and actually do that huge agency. So it's turning from consultancy to an agency. That's the next step in regards to business. the next step in regards to our life would be like setting up hostels or like co-working space. So co-working space being a hostel. So just have tons of people who want to keep their costs down, live with awesome people and stay together. That's our next thing. That's called Startup Hostel, if you want to check that out.
So no doubt we'd love to see you guys there, because I guess the majority of things was that what we went through is that we needed to get costs down, so that while we were going through this process we could get by. So, and a lot of these incredibly gifted people that we were working with, as well had the same problem, that they wanted to keep the costs down and they wanted to live a great lifestyle and they wanted to be working on what they loved. So that's what our next process is, to kind of get something like that started where we can have, great people like yourself being well taken care of and working on what you enjoy. So I guess that's next for us, and working with a few designers in the process. So I'm getting things happening. So
I think everyone's looking for a coffee. So thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.